Welcome back to the program as we turn our attention now to the health sector. Now, in 2023 alone, according to the Nigerian Association of Resident Doctors, nearly 1,500 doctors migrated from Nigeria to other parts of the country. And the reasons, of course, are not far-fetched, from lack of infrastructure and poor welfare of medical personnel. And the government has come up with yet another measure, this time no leave of absence for medical workers who are migrating abroad. And of course, we know the end game to all of this. But how are medical health workers taking this new measure? Let's have this conversation as we have joining us the president of the Nigerian Medical Association, Mr. Roland Ojima. Mr. Roland Ojima, welcome to the Morning Brief.
Thank you very much. It's my privilege and honor to be here. Thank you for inviting me.
So let's start with this leave of absence. How is the association and, of course, medical workers across board taking it? And in addition to that, I'd like you to also provide insight about this practice. Is it customary for medical workers to take leave of absence, and then that will be en route to their migration?
Yeah. First of all, let me thank all of you that are in the studio for bringing up this issue. A few days ago, when I heard that the government is planning to bar healthcare workers from having leave of absence, I chuckled to myself and I said, there they go again. Another knee-jerk response. Let me make a confession before I continue. I must tell you that the relationship between the way the current Minister of Health, his Minister of State, even the Permanent Secretary in the Federal Ministry of Health and Social Welfare have been approaching issues in the health sector, I think is commendable. So I must commend them before I proceed. But the fundamental truth is this. Is the healthcare worker a public servant, stroke civil servant or not? If the healthcare worker is part of the public service, I believe that whatever is applicable to a civil servant or a public servant should be applicable to the healthcare worker. The Constitution of Nigeria does not allow undue segregation against anybody for any reason. And therefore, I am not a legal expert, but I believe that if the healthcare worker is part and parcel of the federal or state civil service, and there are laid down benefits within the system of that service, nobody should bar the healthcare worker from benefiting from what other public servants will benefit from. And let me also say this. I don't know how they got the idea that you actually need to take a leave of absence to Japa. And even if you are going to take a leave of absence, please, do you write reason, Japa? You don't come and put up a reason and say, I'm taking a leave of absence because I want to Japa. So I don't understand. You see, leave of absence is allowed for civil servants. Does it mean that the healthcare worker, if he has an opportunity for developing himself further outside this country, will no longer be allowed to do that? He's allowed to go on that leave of service, stating the period he wished to be away and stating why and what he was going to do with those periods. And he's even allowed an extension if the institution and the system he works under approves it. So I think we should stop chasing shadows and face the reality before us. We all know why these people are leaving. The solution to the problem is mitigating the reasons that are pushing them out of the country, what we call the push factors, because we cannot handle the pull factors. They are not within our grasp to handle. The pull factors are what is pulling them, those things pulling them out of the country to other countries, while the push is what is pushing them from within the country out of the country. So government has set up several committees. I was in a committee with the National Association of Resident Doctors, medical and dental consultants from 2002 to almost 2022 to 2013. And we proffered solutions, and everybody abandoned those solutions. And I'm seeing another attempt at barring healthcare workers like they tried to do, that doctors cannot leave Nigeria until after 5 years of practice, which was not well thought through. Let us sit down and tell ourselves the truth. There is a reason why they are leaving. Then mitigate it, and the problem will be solved.
So apparently you're uncomfortable with the whole idea of the policy direction, which you tend to look at in terms more like cherry picking. We need to also broaden the conversation as to why this is happening, which you've highlighted. Maybe we'll go back to some of the proposals you've made, because we're looking for solutions. Given the importance of health workers in our society or in any community, perhaps is why the government is reacting the way they are reacting. These are just recent numbers. If you look at the last 5 years, the numbers are alarming. So what were some of those ideas that were put forward that have not been considered by government? Now we're seeing the aftermath of neglecting those ideas.
Thank you very much. You see, we keep approbating and reprobating. We were in this country when some ministers said that we have enough doctors to export, that they should be allowed to go. And suddenly, those you asked to go are going, and you are now panicking. I thought we have become an export nation for healthcare workers. And we are even discussing gaining taxes and income from departure of healthcare workers. Now, let me tell you, the fundamental reason why they are leaving is poor remuneration. Poor remuneration. Another issue is poor health sector financing. Okay? People should stop beating about the bush. As a developing nation, African countries got together in Abuja in 2001 to x-ray what they need to spend as leaders of government or heads of states to be able to lift our healthcare sector out of the doldrums. And they came to their own agreement that they need to dedicate at least 15% of their annual budget to the healthcare sector. And from 2001 till today, Nigeria has not dedicated more than 6%. Are you going to perform magic? So you need proper healthcare sector financing so that the doctor can go to work or the other health workers in a comfortable environment. We are talking of global warming. Have you been to our clinics where we train medical students? You see one doctor with up to 20 students in one room without air conditioning and proper control of ventilation, and the man is sweating. He's supposed to be corporately dressed so that the patients can have confidence that the man taking care of them is not coming out of the gutters. And another issue is the kidnapping. As I'm talking to you now, let me point out, a doctor had been kidnapped in Kaduna with a husband for over 3 months. 2 nights ago, another dental practitioner was picked up in this Abuja, and they're asking us for hundreds of millions. Where do we make such money to pay? Our doctors, our healthcare workers, and their relatives are targets, prime targets. I don't know who gave them the idea that we are rich, maybe because we wear jackets and suits, and they now misconstrue it for being rich. And another issue we must look at, of course, I have said it before, is proper equipment. The days of going to work, seeing a patient you can help, and not being able to help the patient is tearing the healthcare worker apart. So we presented these 4 issues to them. And believe you me, let me also point out that we went on to negotiate on the remuneration issue by May 17th, 2023, in a meeting chaired by the former Minister of Labour, His Excellency Senator Chris Ngige. We came to an agreement to review the consolidated medical salary, basic, and the allowances, and also bring in some new allowances. And the same will also apply to the consolidated healthcare workers' salary scale, which is for the other workers in the health sector, because we are together in this suffering, and nobody can separate us. We must also emerge together, both the doctors and other healthcare workers. At the end of the deliberation, it might interest you to know that sometime late in July 2023, a circular came out for review of only the basic of COMMES, Consolidated Medical Salary Structure, and CONHES. And nobody is now talking about the allowances that are the major issue here. And so they have only targeted an increment of a minimal increment of 25 to 35% for like 20 to 30% of the doctors who are solely practicing in the hospital. Nothing has been said about the doctor who is a lecturer in basic medicine, a doctor who is also a lecturer in basic clinical sciences, and those in the clinical sciences.
Right.
The gulf has been created between what the little they earn and what their colleagues that are based in the hospitals are earning. And we have been chasing them and say, please conclude an agreement you have. It's signed, it's with me here. And for over almost 1 year now, they are not discussing the issue of implementing those things. And the next thing you're talking about is barring the person from exercising his rights. Well, we're in a democracy, and nothing stops us from testing certain orders in court to see whether we are disadvantaged because we have special skill. If you know I'm special, then treat me in a special manner. That is what it should be.
It's a lot of, different things stringed together. But I want to also bring in this dimension. How sustainable do you think this is? Talking JAPA, relocation, or what have you. How sustainable is it? Just yesterday, the UK government put a restriction to care workers coming in with their dependents. Now, that is for care workers, but I think it's also a wake-up call, whether it's care workers, whether it's doctors rather. The government there is saying, this is not sustainable for us. We can't keep taking people in with their dependents, 100,000 care workers, 120,000 dependents. It doesn't make sense for them. And some have said, maybe this is a point where we wake up and say, okay, I think this is embarrassing for us. It's as though they're saying, don't come to our country, we don't want you anymore. So do you think it's really sustainable if you say we have that freedom to move? Everybody will move at some point. Even, I don't know if even you might want to move eventually. Who will be in charge of the NMA? Who would see people? So tell us, how sustainable do you think this is?
Thank you. Thank you very much, my brother. Let me tell you something. The earlier we wake up from this night dream of thinking that anybody outside here is implementing any policy to protect our country, the better for all of us. United Kingdom have done what is good for United Kingdom, and within the next 2 years, they will likely review it. And if it is no longer okay for them, they will open it. So whatever you see going on is calculated to suit the United Kingdom, not Nigeria. And let me also inform you that if you make it legally impossible for people to JAPA, they will use the illegal route. If you don't allow dialogue, then violence will be visited on you. And if United Kingdom has barred them, what of United States? What of Bahrain? What of Oman? What of Rwanda? What of Germany? What of Kingdom of Saudi Arabia? What of Qatar? Look, I mean, the reality is upon us. You can't stop me from selling what I have purchased. You see, until you see a worker the way you see a trader. I used to tell some people that call me for free treatment, and I'll ask them, how many of you walk into H-Medics to pick up drugs, even if you know the proprietor or the owner? You buy what they are selling. Healthcare workers have their brain as their capital, with which they have purchased things they are selling. If you are not going to buy at the right price, I sell to another person, and nobody can have the right to stop anybody from movement. It is a fundamental human right. The freedom of movement is a fundamental human right. Until Nigeria start doing things properly, start budgeting properly, and start investing properly, don't think any country will save you. See, as it stands today, remember that the CFA francs is now stronger than the Naira. And so Benin has become another place where people can move to. Togo, even Niger Republic. Okay, if they tell you that Rwanda will be taking doctors away from Nigeria, will be taking health lecturers, medical lecturers away from Nigeria. The doctor in the basic medical area is suffering, is in penury. And we are before them, begging them, see, you must balance this act. If you neglect those that produce the doctors, then there will be no doctor to be produced. If you neglect the doctors that are already in the clinical practice, there will be nobody to take care of you. So it's a balancing act. The more they neglect the producers of the doctors, the worse the number that they will produce, and the more those that were produced will leave, because the neglect is everywhere. When you say there is an increment in salary in Nigeria, you're talking about 70,000 naira, 100,000 naira. Related to what is going on in our economy, related to our purchasing power, related to the price of fuel, pump price of fuel, electricity tariff, related to school fees. How many doctors can send their children to all these universities in Abuja? So what happens to this profession? I grew up to become a doctor because I was watching my uncle. So if the doctors are gone, who will be the next inspiration? So let us be serious for once. That's what I think.
And those are the realities, really. Speaking of what is reality, some of the first few things that you started off by saying is to commend the Minister of Health for his policy approach and management approach, really, to the sector, which seems to be the consensus, amongst watchers of the health sector. But perhaps we should be more realistic and weigh that against what has been devoted to the health sector in the 2024 budget, which is less than 5%. And you also said earlier that government agencies or the managers of the health sector have been non-committal about negotiations for an increase in remuneration. So should we be looking at the performance of the Minister of Health more objectively? Shouldn't he be the one in the advocacy for the increase in remuneration of medical workers such that we can stem the tide in the Japa syndrome?
Thank you very much for this. I am not the spokesman for the Minister of Health, but I'm talking based on what I've seen. He's a gentleman. He's a gentleman. He also speaks, but it's not all, the buck doesn't stop on his table. When you talk of issues, like the issue of upward review of commerce allowances and conhealth allowances, he has to go through the Presidential Committee on Salaries, which must be engendered from the Ministry of Finance and Ministry of Labor. It is after the Presidential Committee on Salaries has come to an agreement that it can now go to the president, and subsequently from there, if approved, the secretary to the government will send it to the National Salaries, Incomes and Wages Commission to produce a circular. That committee, Presidential Committee on Salary, has not met to do the job they are supposed to do on the review, upward review of commerce allowances, which is the major pay to the doctors. The basic is not the major pay. But we accepted it because a drop of water to a thirsty man is better than rejecting that drop. It could kill. So we still call on government, President Bola Ahmed Tinubu, to please direct the Ministry of Finance and Ministry of Labor and Employment to meet in the Presidential Committee on Salaries with Ministry of Health to be able to push forward the further improvement in remunerations, which is the main solution, and also to improve funding of the health sectors. I've had a lot of time people say doctors are not managing the healthcare sector well. I always break into laughter. How many healthcare sectors that belong to federal government have collapsed? How many banks have collapsed relative to the bankers and economists? What is happening to our currency that is being managed by them? What is happening to the health sector? How much is given to the health sector? If you give the health sector the type of salary you give to people in CBN and people that work in the treasuries, I'm sure you will have a world-class system. So you don't underfund the system and put a man there to perform magic. That is not acceptable in anywhere in the world. And I'm sure no hospital has collapsed. Yeah, the services may be poor, but we are still running barely on nothing. The cost of diesel is killing the whole teaching hospitals and federal medical centers across Nigeria, specialist centers. So the essential truth is that the buck doesn't stop on the table of the Minister of Health. He is doing his bit. He's one man that has called me to so many meetings, unlike other ministers. Once there is an issue that is getting hot, he will be there. His Minister of State will be there. And even the permanent secretary, I cannot take that away from them. Unionism is not madness. It is actually political reality. So I commend them for that. But I pray that they continue the push. See, let me also tell you some things we meet and you shudder. People approved a new basic increment in basic in 2023 July. To be effective in February, it started being effective February this year. And somebody is telling me that I need to write for them to mobilize money from service-wide vote before they can pay the arrears of last year. I, the president of Nigerian Medical Association, have to be part of the process of cranking up the engine of government to do what they have promised they would do. Shouldn't it be a given? If you play golf, you know what they call a given. It's a given that when you have made a commitment, you mobilize the necessary funds and go ahead. We only got there, they told us they will start in February and they will pay arrears this month. We only got there last week to find out the only arrears they have ready is the arrears of January. What of June 1st to December 31st, 2023? I was asked to go and write letters and start chasing letters. So I now live in Abuja chasing letters. Well, it may be good for my physique, but it is not healthy for my mind. It is not good for Nigerian.
All right, Doc.
Thank you.
Doctor, when you look at the statement of the United Kingdom on this ban or restriction they are trying to put for dependents, it's basically two things for me. On one hand is broadly protectionism. On the other hand is productivity of dependents, which they put at 25%, that is stretching their public service further. So perhaps if the immigrants and their dependents or the dependents are more productive, maybe they will review all of that. But that is their own issue, which is why I say protectionism. So let's come home. Let's begin to break down. How much does an average, say, house officer, a registrar, a consultant earn? And what are you looking at? Because the NLC, for instance, has said, oh, 30,000 is not enough. In fact, we're looking for 1 million, looking at the inflation number. So let's pose it properly. An house officer, I don't know how the category is now. I think a registrar, consultant, maybe you help us break down the categories and how much they earn now, what you're looking at in the future in terms of this negotiation.
Thank you very much. You see, let me say this clearly. What we are earning is pittance. I don't mind communicating to you quietly. Because sometimes if you tell people you're earning 200,000 naira and they're earning 50,000 naira, you become a target for kidnap. But it is pittance. You cannot compare it. If I were to leave Nigeria today to a place like Saudi Arabia, I may earn like 5 to 6 times what I'm earning without tax and with other incentives. So I'm careful because you say, there's a saying that in the land of the blind, completely blind, I'm quite mindful of that blindness is not a handicap per se. It's a state. If somebody is totally blind, somebody with one eye will end up the king. So in our economy where everything is down, but let it be known that doctors earn between 200,000 to a maximum of about 1 million naira, from the lowest to the highest. That is where we are as of today, okay? And now, if you want to pay properly, if we really want to be, if they want to pay us properly, they have indices upon which they can base their assumptions. The inflation between 2009, when we got the commerce salary scale, to now should be looked at. The variation in purchasing power between 2009 and now should be looked at. The pump price of fuel between 2009 and now should be looked at. And of course, the exchange rate in 2009 and now. My brother, when you put all this together, in fact, when we did our own causal analysis, we found out that what we were paid in 2009 is about double in value what we are earning today. And therefore, you will need at least 200 to 300% increment in whatever it is now to achieve stability before we now start talking. Well, and don't tell me there is no money. Please, nobody should tell me there is no money. Because if a father comes home robust and tells his children that there is no money, they should please manage to be hungry. It is not acceptable.
Well, Dr.
We are looking at them.
You
are buying imported
You're
cars.
getting to the
they
point.
They are having a good time. So
right.
We are all in this business.
You're getting to the point that we were just going to anchor on. And I think it's an important point to really raise and wind down on. So let us speak to this now. Where should we, and I'm saying we, I mean government, right? Where should government take the money from? And I want you to be as frank with us as possible. So we have spending for defense, we have spending for education, we have spending for government, even though government is trying to cut down government with the Oronsaya report, and we have spending for other things. If you were to advise government that, see, we have looked through the budget and we've seen these areas that we can get this money from, scrape it together so we can fund our health sector appropriately, where will that be, Doctor?
Thank you very much. Even though it is not my job to do, they hired someone they are paying to do the job you are trying to give to me.
No, it's all hands on deck, Doctor. It's democracy. We all have to be involved.
Yes, I'm coming. I do not invite his ministers to tell me how to run NMA. That is the truth of the matter. And I don't think I'm doing a bad job. Now, what I'm saying in essence, wherever they got the money to recently increase the salary of judiciary. Are you aware that the salary of judiciary has been increased and they didn't have to go on strike? They didn't have to even talk about it or sit on negotiating table for days and nights, sweating. Wherever they got the money to increase the salary of judiciary, there is more money there. Wherever they got the money to buy those cars that are in hundreds of millions, there is still more money there. Whenever we get the money to carry all the delegations and the large groups to move around, there is still more money there. So the fundamental issue I'm getting to is the fact that it is a matter of priority and choice. If the government chooses today that they will take good care of the health workers, they will dedicate necessary resources to it. We are paying our legislators well. We are paying the judiciary well. We are paying the executive well, and people keep asking, where do we get the money? There's a place they are getting money to do those ones. Let them also get money from there to take care of this. Let them get money to fix the healthcare sector. The primary healthcare sector is almost gone. I thank the minister for focusing in on that area. It is quite important because suddenly the tertiary health structure has become both primary, secondary, and everything. Let me use this opportunity to make a clarion call.
30 seconds now.
Governors in Nigeria.
30 seconds,
Please. Yes. Let me conclude by making a clarion call to all our governors in this country. Please focus on the secondary healthcare system. I was delivered as a baby in a general hospital in Aba. Please, governors, upgrade and fix the general hospitals. Let us also see if the local governments can help with the primary healthcare system so that federal government and the other private sectors can take the tertiary health system. We are inviting the private sector. Government should open up the healthcare sector for private sector participation. That is the ultimate way forward. And I believe that if government make up their mind to take care of the healthcare workers, they will find the resources is available. We are seeing it used for others. Please use it for us and stop banning us.
Yeah.
Thank you very much.
Indeed. When there's a will, they say that there is a way. And what you said, Doc, about source of funding is significant of, what that line from long ago, that Nigeria doesn't have a revenue problem. What it has is a spending problem. We hope that the message has gotten to where it should go to. Dr. Uche Roland Ojima is the president, Nigeria Medical Association, and consultant dermatologist, University of Nigeria Teaching Hospital in Enugu. Thank you very much, Doc, for your time and thoughts on the program. Very constructive conversation there. And Dr. Ojima said what they earned in 2009 is 2 times the value of what medical doctors are earning now, and they would need 200 to 300% increase in salary to make the balance. Wow. Let's take a break now. When we return, it will be time to look at another sector. Stay with us. We'll be right back.